Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, happy Pride Month again. Tomorrow I'm going to be, or Monday, I'm going to be booking the ticket to Taiwan because apparently Monday is the best time of the week to buy airline tickets, and I'm so relieved that I'm finally going to network with others in Taiwan and hopefully pivot my career out of Taiwan. Something happened yesterday that made me realize how much toxicity I had been putting up with in times past. You see, you guys hear me talk a lot. I often complain about how unhealthy a lot of Americans are, and I had a I teach at a community college. I have students who call out sick all the time. I have colleagues who call out sick. I have to fill in for them. And then yesterday, I'm dating a distant cousin of Eve Curry, and she bailed saying she was sick. And the truth is, she probably was. I'll get to why I say toxicity in a moment. But I used to curse that I would run into people who bailed because they were sick. Yesterday, when Eve Curry bailed, I was like, oh, thank God, because yesterday I was already very stressed out about a number of things. And so I wasn't in the mood either. And then I remembered something. There were plenty of times when I went to work off. I had hurt myself the night before, and uh, I hate to admit it, but I went to work when I had COVID-19 as well. I mean, I did put on a mask and I did take precautions. And it hit me that I was running on a lot of scarcity, right? So, for example, when had I met Eve Curry 3 years ago when I didn't have all of this life, I probably would have went out with her. Even if I had burned myself with bismuth the night before, or when I had COVID-19, or all the other fun stuff, right? Because it was either that, or I might have to wait another 10 years before I could go on another date, right? Ditto with my workplace, right? When I didn't have two jobs and a side gig, right? It, it was either show up with COVID-19 or take a big risk, right? Nowadays, it's more akin to I can improve my situation. I can set boundaries now, right? And yesterday, when Eve Curry bailed at the last minute, and I, I think she's being truthful actually because we continued to chat, and she told me she was feeling better, and so that's good. But it made me realize how many times I pushed myself to the edge. It probably didn't do wonders for whatever illness I was recovering from, right? And it probably embarrassed myself, and it probably made other people sick at some point too, right? And so it's just really toxic. Not to mention, at a lot of my other jobs, not this current one, but at other jobs, you didn't always get paid if you called out, right? Now, what's really funny is that uh, when COVID broke out, we technically your employer was supposed to pay you when you got sick with COVID. The reality is you couldn't push it very far, right? Everybody was stressed out about if they were going to survive their job with during the COVID crisis, and the law was basically a joke, right? If you really stop to think about it, and the fact that I didn't have any money put away or a second source of income, or really any sort of semblance of life, right? It wasn't even just the money anymore, right? A lot of my social life was contingent on the work. The fact that I lived like that made it impossible for me to call off, even when I had COVID. And it was a big wake up call. What happened yesterday, and so and it's just really sad how we behave so individualistically. Now, I went to replace my car 2 weeks ago, and so as I was moving everything from my old car to the new car, I ran into a lot of hostility with everybody. First of all, the environment just as I'm doing this, I this is in a car dealership. I had people just bother me. You got panhandlers coming up to me. You got just noisy people, And finally, I had, you got to remember that Kia Forte I've been driving for 3 years. And I had a lot of art projects, and I found a lot of things that I thought I had long lost. So, which was good. But then I needed to wash my hands, and my hands were so dirty; they were black. I mean, if all you saw were my hands, you might have thought I was black, right? And so I ran into a nearby McDonald's to wash, and the store manager was very hostile to me. He could have. Apparently, their policy was their bathrooms are for customers only. They didn't even say it on their door or anything like that. The store manager could have asked me if I would like to order something. He could have told me about some great stuff that he had at the McDonald's. Not that I would be moved by it. I have a different kind of lifestyle. I probably would have ordered an iced tea. But he could have told me, hey, we got this new sandwich or whatever, right? That would have been a much more beautiful way to handle it. Instead, he comes up to me and barks at me that bathrooms are for customers only, right? It's how you say it. It's not what you say, right? And it was just very frustrating. I was already stressed out because I had a lot of stuff in my car that needed to move. I was worried about losing anything, and you know what? I lost something. Every time I hand over my car keys, I always forget the other keys on the keychain. This is a mistake that I can make a million times and still make a million and one times. I don't know why. It's such a blind spot for me. I had another. I almost lost my mailbox and my apartment keys when I traded up my. I had a Mitsubishi Lancer which I traded for the Kia 3 years ago, and I almost lost my keys there. I got them back, and then I went to get my oil changed one time, and that time I actually did remember to remove my mailbox keys because I wanted to go across the street to go pick up my mail. It was not far from the mailbox. Do you know what happened then? I lost the mailbox key at the mailbox place because I'm not used to it being a single key. And so this is a mistake I can make a million times and still continue over and over and over and over. Do you have a blind spot like that? Another blind spot that I often have is spilling my drinks. What will happen? Pretend this is a glass of beer or something like that. I'm holding it and I want to reach for something, right? So, for example, I'm at a friend's home and we're playing board games. I take a sip of the beer, and then I go over to pick up something. I forget the direction that gravity points. And I think I could turn my hand to go pick up a game piece or something. I've done that too many times, and it's a mistake that I have such a blind spot in my mind for that for some reason. Uh, I'm trying to think where else. Leave a comment if you have a blind spot of a mistake you can make a gazillion. Oh yeah, another one. This one relates to maps and directions. I pull up GPS for where I want to go, and so it's not as prevalent today because we have data. But 10 years ago, it was a little bit more prevalent, where data wasn't everywhere. I would pull it up and save it to my, or pull up the website and leave the tab open so that I would have the directions right. And then as I would approach my friend's home, I would think about, oh, I want to zoom in. Oh, I can't because there's no data. I forget that you actually need to load something new when you zoom in, and then the map would completely disappear off my phone, and now I'm in an all out panic for it. And so where else have I run into this? But blind spots like that always drive me nuts because I'm like, how can I make that mistake again and again and again and again? And you get complacent to it because you think that you made it so many times you can never make it again. I don't know. Feel free to leave a comment. Uh, Now, Eve Curry, she used to smoke cigarettes and she quit. And she told me a few times when she had slipped, and they were the way she slipped was always a blind spot. It seemed like she would make the same mistake over and over and over and over and over again, and it kind of reminds me of that. But I we're okay. Well, I'm kind of going off topic. I was going to talk about toxicity. 3 years ago, I was working at a tutoring center, and when I think back at it, and I think about the times when I had good interactions with my students and my colleagues, all of my interactions with the students and the colleagues were positive. Well, I did have this one girl who tried to hit on me, and I wasn't interested in her. But you know what? You know what? The fact that she hit on me actually gave me a lot of confidence too. It's just that I didn't want to do it with her. So even that wasn't a terrible interaction. Um, and One of my favorite interactions was my boss was out actually. War had just broken out in Ukraine, and Ukrainians were fleeing to Poland. And when I watched the news, it was really sad because I had just vacationed in Poland a few years earlier, and now it looked like a completely different scene. And it was just sad. While I was in Poland, I had picked up a rock in Gdansk Bay as a souvenir, and I still had it. And I took it to the tutoring center to show them what Poland looked like before the crisis. We had a fish aquarium. I cleaned off the rock and I placed it in the aquarium to remind people that there was time before the war too. And it's just my luck. I have a nickname for the rock actually. I called it polonium because it came from Poland, and it's just my luck that the following week two fish died. Probably had nothing to do with the rock, but two fish died. And my coworker joked that maybe the rock actually contained polonium. My coworker was from Bulgaria, so nearby, and he joked that maybe the rock actually contained polonium. So just vibes like that, all right? And unfortunately, I never vibed with my boss like that. My boss was always, you know what? Did he have a tough job? Yes, he probably did. Did he handle it well? No. So, for example, June 13th is my anniversary. June 13th of 2010, I went on my first date with myself. So it's become an anniversary at a time when I broke up out of a toxic relationship. And my boss knew that. I often talked about it. I had students who were similar backgrounds. They probably should have gone on a date with themselves. So I often brought up and my anniversary was coming up. So I talked extensively about it. Now, my boss knew about it. He was probably in a quandary with scheduling. In Seattle, or the semesters end pretty late. I think mid-June, something like. Kids have to take finals. Did he need to schedule me on June 13th? He probably did. Did he do it well? No. He passive aggressively sends the schedules over the weekend, and he didn't talk to me. He didn't wish me happy anniversary. In fact, he gave me a split schedule on the day of the anniversary. My guess is that he realized he needed to do that, and he was like, "Oh fuck," and he didn't know what to do, and he could have talked it over with me. Like, for example, I've had students who fell behind with their studies. Right? They didn't hide for it. So the good ones never hid from me. They talked to me about it. They had difficulties because of this or that. Right? Yeah, there were students who hid from me too. Those were the hardest to work with. Right? Because you didn't know what was going on. You didn't know how to approach it. Right? If the students were late with their homework and they told you that because they had just had a toxic relationship, you could have done something about it. Right? Or if they told you that their grandmother had just passed away or they had COVID, you could have done something about it, assuming it was truthful. Right? But students who just hid because they panicked, they had COVID and they fell behind, they panicked and they hid. I hated those. I'd much rather they were open to me. Unfortunately, my boss kind of behaved like that too, right? And he should know better because I'm sure he has students who behave like that too, right? And so, but he should know better. He's in his 60s, and he doesn't know any better than that. I don't know why. Um, he probably sensed that. Well, he was mistaken, but he probably thought I would quit the job, right? Because I had another job at Washington Technology University, and I was in the process of pivoting my career here in Phoenix at the time. He probably assumed that had he told me about the schedule, I would have said I quit right there, right? He was mistaken about that because I kind of needed the social connections, and but whatever the situation is, it just goes to show it's toxic. Even if he knew I would have quit my job, I still think it's toxic for him to put that ahead of connection. Right? After all, if that's the only reason he'll survive that one final exam, what about the next one and the next one and the next one? Is he going to play a game every time? Right? We don't have a long term kind of mentality anymore, right? I was traveling not that long ago. I was on the road in where was that? I was on my way to Albuquerque, and once again, I forgot. I got complacent about my directions and all. I needed to go charge my phone in order to look up directions. I pulled into, I think it was a Safeway that time, and so the only outlet I found was like just outside the bathroom, and the people there were very hostile at me. And I even when after I told them I was looking for directions, they were still very hostile. I actually wrote to Safeway's corporate to complain, and then they gaslighted me. Oh, that's not their policy and all that. Just sorry about these jokers of an employee. Maybe I should go back there and try it again and actually record it so I could secretly record it so I could actually send it to. I'm glad I live in Arizona right now because here in Arizona we are what we call a one party state. If you want to record an interaction in public, only one side of the interaction has to agree to the recording. So because so many times I complain about these hostilities and then I get gaslighted. Like people say that this is not our policy. We would never do that, and so on and so on. It makes me wish I had recorded it. I gotta start recording. Maybe I just need to put some kind of a dash cam on my body and just start recording every interaction that I get involved in because I can't tell you how many times people gaslight me. I complain about. I had a. I'm kind of missing a gaming convention right now because I uh, I really despise venues that don't allow you to bring outside food. I think that ought to be illegal. If I had it my way, if I were leader of the world, it is illegal for any event open to the public to disallow outside food unless there's a really good reason for it, right? Now imagine instead of a gaming convention, this were a nuclear convention and they were showing you how to isolate polonium 210 from uranium ore, right? Okay, yeah, ban food there, right? If this were a convention about peanut allergies. Yeah, ban peanuts there, right? But for no good reason other than you want to sell food at the place. I think that should be a human rights violation. I really do. But okay, so I had gone to one of these things and I tried to explain my situation, and this idiot tells me that why are you coming here if you're so sick? And I said, I'm sorry you think I'm sick. I'm going to try to get well. And I brought my food in there anyway, but I lost my I completely lost my mood for the gaming convention after that, and I wrote to them to complain, and again. The people at the gaming they couldn't even tell me whose policy it was. The convention people told me it was the policy of you got a right to the Phoenix Convention Center. The convention center told me I had to contact the gaming convention people, and they told me that none of their people should have behaved like that. Did you get the person's name and all that? Ah, all right. Anyway, so just a lot of hostility and barriers, and the fact that we don't like to even think long term, right? Like my boss, had he told, let's face it, had he been straightforward with me about the day of the anniversary, I might even still be working there today, right? After all, I had good chemistry with everybody else there, and so he didn't even get the benefit of his own toxicity, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.